Morning, guys.
Good morning, Commissioner Corn. Looks like we are ready to begin if you are.
I'm ready.
Okay. It's 10:02 a.m. on August 14th, 2025, and we'll call to order this meeting with the Planning Department and Prosecutor's Office for our Planning Department update meeting. And with that, we will turn it over to the Planning Director to walk us through the agenda.
Mr. Wilson should be on. I was just on the phone with him, so I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly. Maybe can you shoot him the link to this? Maybe okay. Never mind. Okay, so let me present a couple of additional. So this is our typical agenda. I'll just highlight the differences here. We have a notice of title or lifting of notice of title, and we've added that under the compliance section. Based on previous conversation with the board, you don't want that in exec, given it should be an open meeting item. So that's on the agenda there and in the packet as well. We'll give you an update as to the status of the Title 12 and Title 16. I want a little bit of guidance on the Title 16, just general agreement from the board. And then there's two action items here. There's one for requested by a citizen for a Title 12 review and audit. I think there was an email sent to all three board members from Ms. Jonna Plant. And then there's an action item that was added for a Title 11 change to subchapter 110, which is our agency authorizations, requested by a fire district with a memo in the record with his rationale in the request. So on that, I'll get right into, first item on the agenda here is public comments and then any other announcements. Jonna has her hand up.
Okay. Jonna, public comment?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners and Planning Department. Jonna Plant, Sagal. You have the vote for later for the Title 12 land use audit, and I just really request that you say yes on that. The wording was slipped in. It mirrored the Idaho Supreme Court Citizens Against Linscott asphalt plant decision, which barred the asphalt plants on non-conforming gravel pits. The illegally inserted wording would allow just exactly what they said it couldn't happen. Even though it was discovered in 21, it took over a year for me to have it removed. But from 2020 to 2022, I personally witnessed the planning department shenanigans pushing amendments that went directly against the court's ruling. And this raises serious concerns about our local sub-area committee, which may also have been compromised. If they could alter our laws, they could just as easily alter those plans to serve their agenda. The codifier had confirmed it came from a Bonner County ID.gov address. The excuse was that they think it was an employee error, but which employee exactly could have done that? We'll never know unless we do a full audit, an independent audit, knowing that could be involved. And we know that, I mean, it's just critical that we find out who it is, hold them accountable, and for sure make safeguards that it can't happen again. We have all these volunteers working really hard on every single word of our laws and our comp plan, and I'd really like those to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman?
Good morning, Dave Bowman here. I agree that I think doing an audit, because we only know of that one particular instance, but there may have been more. And during the time that happened, we know from other things that are happening now that I won't mention, but we all know that a lot of shenanigans went on during that time period. And there could easily have been more of code amendments that weren't legit. Something that I've been meaning to bring up, and I keep forgetting because I get sidetracked, but it dovetails with this a little bit. And I don't have the code section in front of me at the moment, but when the county switched from having the paper map that mysteriously disappeared and going to the online version, there is currently no way that I'm aware of for a person to access that map and see what changes have been made or see the history of a particular, zone and when zone updates were done. And all that is supposed to, the, when it was a paper map that was supposed to be marked on the map, signed off by the chair, if I remember right, and attested to by the clerk that it was all legit. And I'm, again, I don't have the code right in front of me this minute, but I'm pretty sure that all those requirements remain today. And so I would ask that, and I know this is being reviewed right now, but what the current code is somehow or other should be complied with so that anybody can look and see what the history of a particular zone is or a particular parcel and what zone it lies in. And anytime there's a change made. So I think at a bare minimum, and I know GIS, I'm told, that you can't, no one can just access the GIS without it being logged, who was on and what they did. But that should be made available to the public. And we have already encountered a couple of cases here in recent months, or I'll say in the last year, where zones, where parcels got changed from one zone to another that weren't supposed to be. And who knows how many more of those there might be. And there needs to be a way for the public to not, and I'm not asking for an audit, but just that the public be able to access that. And I'm pretty sure you have to do that per what the code reads. So I would just ask planning and the commissioners both to take a look at that and get us up to speed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional public comment? PhD?
We're just here in case
Okay.
someone has questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the
All
next
right.
item on the agenda.
So announcements, I don't have anything that's not going to be covered under one of these other agenda items. So, anything from the other two? Okay. So here's your list of August August planning related meetings. This is already out of date because I produced this last week and we've added we've added one more workshop to this. So I think I even have a disclaimer on here saying this is subject to change. So it's a general.
Already changed.
And it's already changed, yeah. I only produce this once a month for this meeting. If you don't want to see this and you think the public viewer is fine and the calendar is fine, that's fine as well. And it's just one more thing I add to this.
I don't see a need to produce it unless
Yeah.
Commissioner Korn has a different opinion because of the fact that it's kind of a fluid thing and we
Yeah.
are having to continue hearings and things of that nature. So this becomes really dated and static pretty quickly.
I started putting this in here before we had our public facing calendar. And our agendas were in several different places. So yeah, anyways. So starting next month, we'll pull this list out of this meeting.
Did we lose Commissioner Korn?
Yeah, he's gone.
Yes, we don't have a quorum at the moment. I think Commissioner Korn may have had technical difficulties, so we're gonna recess the meeting. It's 10:11 and we're gonna recess until 10:15. And then we'll reevaluate where we're at with having a quorum.
Coming back over. Ron, can you hear us now?
I can.
Perfect. Okay. Ready to come out of a recess?
All right. Commissioner, are you ready for us to come out of recess and we'll try to continue the meeting? Did you say that again?
I was born ready.
Your audio is breaking up a little, but we'll see if it's good enough to continue. We were just discussing whether or not we'd like the planning department to continue at their monthly update meetings, providing the list of planning-related meetings for the coming month. And I was indicating that I didn't see the need because we make changes to that on a regular basis. And so it's such a dated, static piece of information that I don't think it's valuable.
I would agree.
Okay, then we'll remove that from the agenda for future planning update meetings.
I should also say that every year at the end of the calendar year, we produce a calendar of future meetings for the next calendar year. So by December of this year, we'll produce the 26 calendar, which just earmarks all the dates. And then the dates generally aren't subject to change, whether or not we have a hearing, if we get files or not. It's a little bit subject to change. And we try to keep on top of that calendar and update our public calendar if cancellation of a meeting. For example, like the APA meeting for this month was canceled due to a lack of applications. So we just marked the calendar as canceled. So, but that is we'll keep producing that. I think there's a ordinance in Title 12 and Title 11 that requires it. So moving on to monthly application reports. So here's our Title 11 report. We're at just shy of 900 as of the end of June for building location permit applications. A little bit decently ahead of last year. I think we'll probably end the year with 1,300 to 1,400 building location permits. It sounds like we've slowed down a little bit in August, and believe it or not, our techs are at 100% right now. They've caught up they have no pending application for them to review. And it's incomplete and it's on the applicant, or it's pending a PhD review or some outside, but they've reviewed everything that we've received so far. Just as a point of reference, about a month ago, we were back by 40. So does that sound about right? Yeah. So now we're keeping up with the flow of permits coming in. So as far as Title 12, we have 68 total land divisions. Again, we saw that big jump in minor land divisions back in May. As far as other hearing files, 59 so far for this year, and then administrative files about 198. Public record requests, so far this year, we're about 261, so we're about right on track to hit close to 500 like we did. That's kind of the general rolling number, is around 500 if you look at the average for the last 5 years. So it is a large amount of time that our staff puts into producing public records, and I was chatting with Mr. Storms, our IT director, and or technology director, and he said that from his side for records requests, by far the most come from planning. I don't know. I need to talk to Veronica, see what the percentage looks like, a breakdown between our department and others. But we do receive a lot of records requests, and we try to be timely with them, but our admins are pretty bogged down. Just the sheer volume of this is pretty high. You're looking at 2 a day per working day. So they just stack up pretty quick. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you what the majority of those are out?
Subject matter.
I can tell you they're generally all planning related. No, I'd say half, if I were to guess, half are prospective buyers or a real estate agent asking for information about a specific property. And I'd say half are, somebody looking into some land use action or something else, right? I would say generally, if I were to break it down, based on, that's pretty anecdotal. Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like I would define that as people doing their due diligence before they consider taking an action with land.
Yep. Do you want to take public comments throughout this? We have a member with their hand up.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Mr. Bowman?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say, I know that a certain percentage of them, probably a significant percentage of PRRs, are asking about conditional use permits, right? So somebody sees, for example, an RV park or what appears to be an RV park putting in on someone's parcel. And so they do a public records request to see if there's what the history of CUPs is on that property. And I have brought this out before, and maybe I'm wrong about how many of those are, but it seems like it's probably a significant number. And I would ask, and I have asked, that kind of information and probably other stuff too, where those PRRs could be greatly reduced if that information was available on the GIS viewer, right? So it could be a layer where a citizen can just go on the GIS and click on the layer that shows CUPs, and they highlight them all, and they can look up what the history is. And also, some of that might go away with what I asked about earlier of showing the history on GIS of what changes have happened to parcels or within zones. So I would ask you to really seriously consider that. I've been told that it's not in the budget because of the bandwidth that gets used, but I would ask that have another look. And maybe we can, by putting more information out there accessible to the public, would reduce the number of PRRs. And also one other thing is that if someone calls planning and asks a question, I know that there have been cases where a planner could simply answer the question, but instead of answering it or just sending an email answering it, they insist that that person file a public records request. And maybe some of that could be just if things got handled a little bit differently. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised.
Nope.
Okay.
This dovetails into our next agenda item, which is department updates under software, Intergov, Munis, and Deckard. So we're moving away from Deckard as our rentalscape software for permitting of vacation rental permits. We're working with them to get the information out of that system so we can integrate it back into what's EPL or Enterprise Permitting and Licensing. We went live with our building location permit online applications for individuals, and I think we mentioned this a couple months ago. We have kiosks out front. Staff works diligently with applicants to help with that and when applying for building location permits. We also are live there with vacation rental permits, and as we integrate land use files, the goal is to work with the prosecutor's office, and the information through EPL is like there's a public facing version of that for either pending or approved files. So some of this is cleaning up our data to ensure that what goes to the public reflects the actual decisions made. And there's no additional, I would say less additional burden on staff. It wouldn't be going through GIS. There's a mapping feature to it. We've done some demo of it. I don't think there's additional software costs, if I remember right. So I think it's included with the public facing side that we've already paid for. So to Mr. Bowman's point, it's a project I've been working on for year and a half, where we're going to continue to work towards that so that that the end goal is to be able to even put building location permits public facing. We have to just be cautious as to what information we share, because there's a lot of, there's some information that has to be redacted per some state statute. So we're working with the prosecutor's office to ensure that, and it sounds like we can redact specific lines. So if someone shares their personal phone number or email address where that's protected information, we cannot make that public facing. So first we needed to go live with the software, work out the kinks, which is the last couple of months, which we've been doing. The next step is to start working on that public facing side. So we'll get there. We're a very large, slow rolling machine in the government. So, but I've heard the pleas from the members of the public to allow for more public facing information, and it's something that we've been working on. So.
Yeah, and I agree that that's the best long-term solution, as we can come up with a viable way to support it, is to make as much information that would be available through PRR anyway more easily accessible to the public, so that they don't have to go through staff to obtain it. That's better for everyone. So let's keep talking about what methods we could use to do that.
And,
Commissioner Corn, do you have any feedback on that item?
I don't.
Okay.
and I just checked the public viewer. On zone changes, it does specify the file number. So like ZC125, it shows it on the map, and I checked on a couple of spots during public comment. I know on the planning department side, we have links to recorded documents where the ordinance is recorded. I can talk with Mike to see if we can make that available to the public. It doesn't seem like it would be an issue. I'll double check with him to see if he can turn that portion live. I think the subdivision layer does that. I'm not sure. I can ask him for that one as well, because I know he's been mapping for platted land divisions, so either subdivisions, short plats, or minor land divisions, where if there's a recorded document that goes along with it, they have a link on the viewer on the map to that recorded document. So we started that route for conditional use permits and other things, then we found out that our enterprise permitting and licensing already has that, so we've decided to integrate that into our data, rather than put the burden back on GIS to have additional man hours to do it, so. Okay.
That's worth exploring more. Thank you.
Let's see, the next thing is staffing, org chart changes. I think the last person we hired was Dylan Young, our hearing coordinator, and we haven't had any staff turnover since then. Financial side, we've been fairly consistent. I think we're just shy, we're just over 100% on revenue, and we have 2 months left. So I think we're gonna come in probably at 1.2 million so far, I think, this year, if I were to estimate out, which is a little bit below what I gave during our budgeting. I tend to be a little conservative on revenue, so we'll see. But we have slowed down in August, so we'll kind of see how the rest of the year turns out. I think I mentioned this at a previous meeting, that our expenses for C&D budget have come in a little higher. Some of those have to do with some refunds that we are required to issue.
Right.
And then some are also related to building location permits. So we have an external cost for stormwater reviews or whatnot. And then some additional plats that were recorded with a higher, if I were to look through the numbers again, the county surveyor costs and whatnot, so related to files. So sometimes when you have an increase in revenue, you have an increase in expenses related to some of that revenue. So we'll likely come in with a supplementary budget sometime in September. I'll look through that by the end of the month to see how September is going to shake out. We will likely need to do, I know for certain we'll need to do a supplementary budget or change just to cover the costs of Rental Escape and Deckard. The renewal is going to be far less than last year. I think it's 18,900 versus 29,000, if I remember right. So.
Sounds right.
Katie, do you want to present violations, or you want me to take it? I got it? Okay. Katie's here to answer all the questions on violations, and I'll present the information. So through July, we have, 10 building location violations, 5 were abated, and 5 have submitted building location permits, which is great. Looking at Title 12, so we had 6 so far, or 6 in July, 3 of which were abated or unfounded, and there's still 3 remaining that need to be resolved. So, now, just for your, for your information, sometimes we get multiple complaints about the same. Those don't get started each individual one. Typically, if it's 3 complaints on the same property, and if it's around, say it's a noise complaint on the same property 3 days in a row, those get lumped into one violation. Am I wrong? No, okay. And that's just for processing.
I think that makes more sense from a tracking perspective.
Yeah.
The type, if it's the same parcel and the same type of issue, so it falls under the same part of county code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, if we get multiple from different people, do we count that as one violation? Yeah, that's what I thought. So if we had several, right? So we might get a whole lot more complaints, but as far as unique,
Right.
Yeah, unique violations or potential violations, that's what this comes in. All right, so here's your action item to lift this notice of title. Katie, take it from here. Yeah, you got to take the microphone.
All right, so this is a lifting notice of title. It was a building violation. They actually sold the property, so they wanted to clear up the notice of title. The structure that has been removed, my compliance investigator went out, checked it, abated the problem, and here we are today. Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Commissioner Corn, do you have any questions about the lifting of this title that has been verified by planning staff as having been abated?
Nope.
Okay. Would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Based on the information before us, I move to lift the notice of title to parcel number RP 0275 40000050A.
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, any deliberation by the board?
I have none.
Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Corn,
Yes.
Commissioner Donkey,
Yes. Motion passes. Commissioner Corn, do we have permission to use your stamp for this?
Absolutely.
Thank you. This was the only lifting of notice that we had for the
Correct.
agenda today,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So as far as updates on Title 12 and Title 16, so that's our next agenda item here, and then comprehensive plan update. So the Title 12, we have two fairly large text amendments that are been drafted, submitted to, and have public notice out. The Planning Commission is going to hear those on the 27th of this month. Those are the changes to, majority is Chapter 6 with some minor edits to 4 and 8, which are just related to the changes in Chapter 6. That one is all in response to the moratorium on minor land divisions. There is a short window to meet all of the noticing requirements before that moratorium is null and void, if you will, or expires. So the Planning Commission is going to review this in a workshop setting next Tuesday, the 19th. And like I said, they'll do a hearing on the 27th. I have this slotted on our agenda, and I've elongated this meeting to 2 hours to allow for a review by the board to review these two changes. So this is files AM, I think it's 12 and 13. So the Chapter 6 stuff, the subdivision chapters, as well as, and I think that the second item won't be nearly as long. It's going to be the changes to Chapters 1 and 2, which we've workshopped pretty extensively earlier this year. Given I had both of those ready to go, I thought we'll just push them both through for hearings. So like I said, I'll workshop those with the board. The board's hearing is slotted right now, assuming the Planning Commission makes a recommendation on the 27th. The board's hearing will be September 22nd. If the board decides not to approve them that day, we'll have to scramble pretty quickly to extend the moratorium for the minor land divisions or let it expire, whichever the board chooses. There's some really short timelines, or I should say there's some really tight timelines and notices that would have to be met. So after the workshop next month with the board, so Planning Commission, our update meeting workshop with the board, I would like some clearer guidance from the board. If major revisions are going to be needed, then we would like to extend the moratorium past October 1st to give us that time. So, or I should say, give the board time to edit and make revisions. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Corn, any questions?
No. So after the 27th, we'll be able to get a draft of that, see what that looks like to review.
Yep, I can give you guys the draft now, but that is subject to some change by the Planning Commission at their hearing. So if they see some edits to that they don't like, in their recommendation, they can pull some or modify it in a different way than what staff is presenting. So I would say I can give it to you, but it's subject to change. And I'll present any of those changes specifically at the next update meeting we have next month. Which
Great, thanks.
I don't have that date on. I want to say it's the 10th, but I don't know what it is.
It's either the 10th or
I think it's the 10th of next month that it's a morning meeting again, if I remember right. So
I think
is
that's
that right?
great timing because
Man, I don't know how I
yeah,
remember
it
this
gets
stuff.
us between the two hearings, so that's a good.
Okay,
Thank
so Title 16, which is our APA code, again, hasn't been utilized by anybody yet, but now we're required again to change it per this change in state law. It's a pretty low-hanging fruit. There's not a whole lot. We've workshopped this once, and the APA Commission gave a recommendation and recommended the board adopt and approve the draft changes. Just for simplicity's sake, this does have to go to public hearing because this APA statute refers to 6509 for noticing standards for changes. Other statutes don't require public notices, or public hearings, I should say. This one does, because it refers back to 6509. So if the board's agreeable, I would like just to present this as a hearing item, and I'll notice it in the paper and whatnot at the next update meeting next month. I don't think we need to add a special meeting. The alternative would be to add it on like a business meeting on a Tuesday. If you want to open up a hearing on a business meeting, I'm amenable to either of those. But rather than doing some special meeting where you guys have to convene, just hack it onto one of these other agendas.
Commissioner Corn, I recommend we go ahead with the next planning update meeting. It's more subject specific that way, instead of trying
I'd
to
agree.
move it into the middle of a business meeting.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
Perfect. I'll get you those draft changes, the red line versions, and you can see and compare it against that new Senate bill, I believe it was, that changed the APA standards. It's a lot of copy paste from that or reference back to the state statute, and some other edits in reaction to that statute change.
That sounds good.
Comprehensive plan. So you guys are pretty versed into where we're at with the comprehensive plan because everything's on your plate.
I don't think there's much to have to update on that.
Yeah. So just for general public, since we have a few folks here, the implementation component we had a hearing about that yesterday. Yeah, these days are blending together. It was
Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon, thank you. Yeah, yesterday was the other hearing. So the board continued to the 27th, the implementation component that's been posted on the website, given folks additional time to review the information and the changes proposed by the board. That will, sounds like likely, hopefully be adopted on the 27th. We can put a bow on that one. The land use component, which is, I would say, large, and the board has indicated they want to see additional changes and have time for those changes. I think you've requested a series of workshops. We've scheduled August 28th and September 4th, both at 1:30. These are on Thursdays. That was what was free in your guys' schedule. We've tentatively scheduled workshops on September 11th, September 25th, and October 2nd, all at 1:30 as well. So I haven't published those agendas. I will likely get to those shortly. There was a potential conflicting item on the 11th that we had to resolve.
I know we spoke at the workshop on Tuesday afternoon. I think it's going to be best to notice those as being both the text of the land use designations within the land use component as well as the map, so that if the board needs to, we can go back and forth between the two to do some comparative analysis.
I added some additional language in there. This indicates that the board's going to be crafting changes to it. It kept it pretty broad. I also noticed these as a joint planning commission and board meeting. The planning commission is pretty involved with this still, and they want to remain involved. So just in case we do get a quorum, I noticed it as a joint hearing or a joint workshop with both.
Great.
So
welcome their
so
input.
I think what I got from the board is you guys want to see this done before the holiday season, so before Thanksgiving. So if we backwards plan from there, we have our final workshop on October 2nd, and then it gives us till the 12th to finalize. I'm guessing map changes and text amendments. Staff will have time to react to that, and then publish everything by mid-October for a mid-November hearing date and adoption before Thanksgiving. So
Appreciate the effort on that.
yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Corn, anything on that topic?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, do you want me to keep asking, Commissioner, or will you just break in when you have something you'd like to offer?
I appreciate the thought. I'll just break in when I have something to say. Thank you.
You got it.
So that's our comprehensive plan update. The Planning Commission continues to work on some edits to chapters 3 and 4. They're still pretty conceptual right now, looking through, and I think they're a little hesitant to put a ton more work into this until the land use designations are finalized. So some of that, I'm seeing some hesitation by the Planning Commission to, they're trying to outline things, but they also want to be respective, or they want to respect the board's ability to make changes to what they propose in the land use component, so.
It's very warranted and appropriate, in my opinion, for them to hold back on things that they think could change and impact the work that you're trying to do right now.
I have had several, either members of the public or members of the Planning Commission ask us on the audit idea. I think there was, a few months ago, we had like someone offering up some funds to do a review, an external review of the comprehensive plan. And I told him, I haven't heard anything from you. Do you have any other updates you want to?
I don't.
Not asking you to give me an update.
No,
but
and that's, yeah, and I've been asked by multiple parties about that, and my response to all of them is, I haven't done anything further because I was waiting to see where we go with, as a board.
Okay.
And so I think as we get into these next few workshops and we start to get a feel for what direction we're moving and how things are going, then we can revisit the conversation and decide as a board if we want to pursue some type of a third-party review.
Okay. The next agenda item here is review of and feedback on land use staff reports or previously heard items. Again, this was something that was added a few months back. We've done this month after month. And it was really an opportunity to give the board just that feedback to us or us feedback to the board on, our hearing items. So.
Yeah, and again, I want to comment, I appreciate trying to move more and more into as much just data-driven, fact-based information and not trying to interpret opposition, support, things of that nature, and being as neutral as possible with the information, I think, is the most appropriate approach. I would like to, in the future, have more conversations about how we deal with the timing of when we end the public comment period, when the staff report becomes available to the board and to the public to review and consider prior to the hearing. And so I want to think through the logistics of meeting our statutory requirements, but also trying to build a little bit more time in for both the public and the board to be able to review the file before we have the hearing. Because depending on how many, if we have 3 files in the hearing and there's substantial amount of information in that file, if there's any other significant responsibilities the board has over the course of that week before the hearing, it's rather challenging to perform those reviews of the record before the hearing.
No, he's on. Yeah, he's still there.
And so I believe I'm accurate, and Commissioner Korn will correct me if I'm wrong, that Commissioner Korn would also appreciate a little bit more time between when we have the staff report and when we have the hearing. So if we can build that into the schedule based on when we close comment period and all of that, I think that would be worthy of our further consideration.
Okay, we can discuss that.
So maybe the next update meeting, we can go through some different options on that and figure out.
I'm thinking one of these changes that you guys crafted to that chapter 2 section on hearings is extending the noticing timelines to agencies and public to 30 days. Essentially, it's LUPA plus 15 days, so it'll be a 30-day noticing. But if you want a 30-day notice plus you want everything before you, we're looking at like a 45-day window of having a complete file scheduled for a hearing. So,
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And I know that it's a balance between not wanting to cause delays with applications, but also making sure that people have their applications get the thorough review and consideration that they deserve, and trying to figure out that balance.
The only one I would be concerned about is a conditional use permit for a cell tower or something else, broadband, because
Yeah,
there's a
some of them we
specific
have a
notice
time,
in
the
for
shot
that.
clock
Yeah.
isn't going to allow.
Yeah.
So I agree. We'll have a few exceptions, but at least we can talk about what that looks like.
Okay, put something together. Okay, anything else?
Nope. And I'm going to try to move us along as timely as we can
Yeah.
because I have a conference call at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So
Okay, so the next two are agenda or action items, and then we'll have an executive session. We have a number of notice to titles to place. So the action item here is a discussion of the Title 12 audit and review, or review and audit. Now, again, this was requested by a member of the public. You have all the same information I do, so what questions do you have for me? I don't really have anything else to present on it.
Yeah, so what my recommendation for the board is, I understand the concern and the question being raised, and I think it's a valid question that needs to be considered. What I'd like to do first is get confirmation of what the process is that the county uses to submit changes through the codifier to update the code, to have that presented, to understand what that process looks like and essentially kind of validate that process, and then also have request an assessment as to what we believe the process and cost would be to have an audit performed. So I agree with the intent, but I want to understand what the process would look like, what the cost would be, so that we can have a more thorough conversation around making a decision if the board wanted to move forward with that. So I would ask that if the Commissioner Corn agrees, that the planning department provide the board with a description of what the current process is for how changes to the code go through from step one all the way through to the point that it shows up on the website through the codifier, and then also what the options for audit would be, and if we get a cost proposal for that. And I don't know if Bill Wilson has any feedback on that topic initially.
Do you want to can you restate that real quickly? I mean, you're just asking for the procedure by which we provide the approved ordinance to the codifier and to confirm that?
Yeah, so if we could have in writing what that procedure looks like for our understanding and review as a board, and then also, Bill, what would be a recommended approach if the board wanted to pursue having an independent audit performed of the changes? And again, we have to figure out, right, like from what date to what, from when would we start the audit, from how far back in time, and what would that look like? What would the process look like? What would the work product look like? What would the cost be? We need to somehow define a scope of work if we were going to consider approving such an audit.
I can just tell you from we dealt with this issue one time when Milton was still the director, and I don't have any personal role in transmitting the approved ordinances to the codifier. That's something that I think is the responsibility of the director. As far as performing the audit, I think it could be as simple as just looking at the recorded ordinances that are there in the recorder's office and then comparing them against the what is reflected on the online offering. So it doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to be an incredibly expensive undertaking. And it can be done by the board itself or a designee. I think we have a lot of options there.
Okay. So I'd like to put that on the next planning update agenda then, so that we could have both a description of what the current process is for how those ordinances go forward into actual code updates. And then if we could have some recommendations with regard to methods and cost for having an audit performed by some third party that could be identified, whether it's an outside contractor or somebody not a part of the planning commission, not a part of the board, not a part of the planning department. So none of the involved parties that are a part of the normal process, in order to have that, what I consider an outside or third party audit review. Mr. Bowman, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I just wanted to say that in response to Bill Wilson, I think to look at the ordinances and see how they're reflected online would be a fairly simple process and straightforward. But if I'm not mistaken, the one that was discovered back in 21 or whenever it was there was no ordinance, which is exactly the problem, right? So somehow or other, the code was just mysteriously amended. But that becomes a much more arduous, meticulous, painstaking process to go through the code and work the other way. It really isn't that simple. If I'm correct, I think I am. Whoops.
I think that's just where we need to clarify, what the scope of work would be based on what the data set looks like and how to do a comparative analysis. Jonna?
Jonna Plant again, absolutely right. There was no amendment, no wording that was ever in an amendment, never in front of a planning commission, never voted upon, nothing. So it just was wording that was added that would, if you compare an amendment to our code, would not show up because it was added wording that that never was adopted.
Yeah. Understood. And that's where I don't know from a technology perspective, the simplicity or complexity of it. But for example, I know in a prior position I held that we could use like Adobe Acrobat Professional to do a document comparison and it would find differences between two documents. But there's, it depends on the format and all these other things. So, but there are digital tools that can actually review and do comparison and find differences. And so there may be some fairly efficient methods we could utilize using digital tools, but I think that's going to require a little bit of evaluation.
I don't think Foxo will do that for us.
Probably not.
Got to keep jabbing when I can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I think we have a request for some action items on this for the next update meeting. Is that?
Yep.
Any questions about that?
As far as like trying to get a cost estimation, that would be something from a planning firm or an attorney's office or any.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other entity because it really
like
doesn't have to be in my mind a specific professional licensure or background. It's more about just somebody that can review data and look for discrepancies in data. So I'll give that some thought as well, and if I come up with any other ideas, I'll share it. But at this point, I don't think we're specifically needing a planner or an attorney or someone of that nature as much as we just need someone that can do a data comparison of data file A and data file B and say, can you find a discrepancy either through terms that are changed, terms that are added, terms that are missing?
Sure. Okay. All right. I think we got some good insight on that. So the next agenda item here is, I'll share the screen because we have some memorandum here. So it's a requested change to 11-110 agency authorizations. So to process this request by the fire districts, I believe this is necessary to add, because right now the way B is written is that any building location permit first has to be reviewed and approved by the sewer district and the applicable fire district. So here would be adding the ability for the fire district to give a written waiver to the county, either by individual parcel or individual property or individual request, or what I would assume or what I would look at is by wholesale. If it is a generic request by the by the fire district, I would request of that fire district some kind of resolution or written signed document by the elected officials of that fire district rather than just by the appointed chief. So that way the elected officials of that district understand, what's not being reviewed and what is. All right.
So yeah, I think we kind of have two things to tackle here. One is the recognition that Fire Chief Armstrong has sent a letter to the county planning department indicating that effective September 1st of this year, that the Sagal, West Side, and North Side fire districts will no longer perform residential fire sign-offs on 1 and 2 family homes, which are considered R3 occupancies. And he's given a list of reasons. a bullet list of 7 reasons. I won't get into the detail of those right now because we don't have the time today.
Sure.
I do personally find this to be a very disconcerting situation that has been thrust upon us. But just acknowledging the fact that because of that decision, we have this looming deadline just a few weeks from now.
He did say he's willing to work with a timeline. So he put this in the memo, but when I spoke with him on the phone, he said he could modify if there's additional time needed by the county.
Okay.
But this is the direction he wants to go. So I don't think he's going to refuse to sign these, and then we have like an effective moratorium in his fire districts. But it is something he would like done sooner than later.
So then it's my recommendation that we, as a board, do consider adopting the Title 11 change that's been suggested by the planning department, because what I don't want to see happen is that building location permits for these types of structures are held hostage and can't move forward because we don't have a sign off per our code requirement. And so I think we should adopt this change. And while we're adopting this change in parallel with that, I think we should pursue conversations with the fire chief and the elected fire commissioners of these 3 fire districts to talk in more detail about this decision and whether or not there's something we can do to find some common ground in what I would consider to be a better approach for our community in the long run than what's being proposed right now, because I find this very disconcerting.
I do have to say, he did mention in the memo that this, he's doing this in accordance with 110C. And if you read 110C, the fire district can waive the requirements found on the plat, but not the sign off. So that the way that's written is different, and I don't interpret it the same way the chief does in his memo. So
Yeah, I agree. I don't see where that would be considered applicable for a typical
yeah.
VLP.
We do have a lot of plats out there that have a cistern requirement, and a lot of the fire departments or fire districts back, a few years ago, were working with the previous director saying they don't want these cisterns, they're never going to use them. So this code section was added to say you can just waive that requirement, the plat requirement, saying that you're not going to use it. So that's why this was added, and I don't think just a wholesale, we don't want to review these, is covered under that provision of the code.
Okay, so I'm actually thinking, Commissioner, if you agree, that the best thing might be to see if we could schedule a workshop between our board, the planning department, and the 3 fire districts, Sagal, West Side, and North Side, along with the chief, so that we can have a conversation about this letter that he sent and what the path forward looks like beyond this proposed code change.
I'm not even sure if that's needed. I think he's made it quite clear that he is not interested in continuing this service. So he is basically laying it back on us. I don't know what would come of that meeting. I do think that we need to have a meeting at the minimum between the board and the planning department to see how we move forward. But I'm not sure if it'd be productive having, you talking about the fire chief, or are you talking about the board of commissioners from the 3 fire districts?
Yeah, I'm saying the fire commissioners from all 3 districts and the
Okay.
chief. I would like to, because I'd like to have the elected commissioners from the fire districts involved in this conversation.
Okay.
So I can work with planning on getting a workshop set up with them if they're willing to do so with us, so we can discuss this in more detail as far as their position about this issue.
Yep, I'm good with that.
In the meantime, I think it's appropriate for us to move forward with adopting the change to Title 11 as presented, so that we don't hold up the community with being able to proceed with building location permits in the light of this new development from this fire chief.
I'm in an agreement with that.
Okay. Let's see, then.
Do we feel that that amendment is sufficient?
I do, because it puts the onus back on the fire district as the subject matter experts to offer a written waiver, because then the county is still relying on the fire district as the subject matter expert to decide whether or not they think it's appropriate to waive their required review for that application.
Okay, and I guess my only other concern is he willing, or the fire department's willing to give that waiver on the 1 and 2 family residential stuff?
I don't know if we have confirmation of that right now.
So, I mean, that's what his memo is saying. From the chief's perspective, he's willing to waive that request or that requirement. I really think it should go back to those elected officials so that they're aware of what the appointed chief is giving up, essentially.
I mean,
I
if
would
you,
agree.
for now, what we could do is not take action on this proposed amendment, but suggest that we have the workshop with them and ask that they be willing to delay their decision as far as a date goes. From what it sounds like, the follow-up conversation was between the chief and the planning director, that there's some flexibility with the timing to let them know that we want to work with them to come up with the best possible agreement we can. Because we don't have a fire code as a county. We don't have any experts in enforcement capability. It would really leave the public in a lurch on this issue if we don't at least have them continuing to look at these applications and saying, no, this is a condition in which we're willing to waive a review. So I'd like us to pursue that conversation. And then if we can't come to agreement, then I think we'll have to decide based on their position. Because I am thinking through, if they're not even willing to do an administrative review and issue a waiver, then this still wouldn't even be effective. The current.
That's my thought.
So I guess we need to know what they're willing to do to determine what the path forward looks like. So are you in agreement then that we take no action on Title 11 right now, but instead we pursue holding a workshop as soon as we reasonably can with the elected fire commissioners of each of the 3 fire districts and the fire chief?
I am.
Okay. I will work with the planning department on that. Okay, and with that, we need to move into executive session to address pending litigation associated with placing notice to title. Would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll step down and pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206 1F litigation, I move that we go into executive session.
Second?
If step down, oh, sorry, you seconded, not me. Any public comment? Any deliberation by the board?
None?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Horn,
Yes.
Commissioner Donkey.
Yes. Motion carries. We are